everyone, welcome back to another Exo Heroes video. Earlier today, notes on FC Jinai's long-awaited and highly anticipated Gold FC kit were released. And there's been a lot of discussion and speculation going on about, is she good? How does she work? Should I pull? And so we wanted to throw our hat into the ring and go over our current thoughts on FC Jinai. So first things first, we need to know what changed. If we start with her passive, we could see Mana Absorb 3 got upgraded to Mana Absorb 4, and with it came two new effects. Increase attack speed of all allies in the same row by 20 for 7 turns, can't be removed, and an additional 2 attack speed for each buff removed. And decrease attack of all targets by 40% for 7 turns, can't be removed, and an additional -2% attack per buff removed. These are pretty significant changes, and we'll talk about this in detail at the end of the video. For now, we'll just keep going through the other changes. She also gets 2 new passives, Superstar, which afflicts the attention mark for 7 turns on the target when a skill hits, increases all damage over time on the target with attention by 100%. We believe this to mean anyone she hits with abilities will be marked with attention, and then all dot damage on them will be double. Then we have Fan Meeting, which afflicts the anti-fan mark to the target when attacked, triggers a double team with all living allies if the health of the target with anti-fan is at or less than 30% once every 7 turns. So here the anti-fan mark should proc on whoever hits Jinai, then whenever Jinai targets an anti-fan, when their HP is below 30%, that target will get demolished by the rest of Jinai's team's basic attacks that same turn. Now with all these new passives, it's important to note that she seems to be losing the base flow of mana and charm passives, which means no more synergy with Jin and Shell, which is ironic considering the theme of this FC line. Looking at her actives, everything else is the same, the damage, mana costs, everything, so we don't need to cover that. Instead, let's take this time to discuss whether or not FC Jinai is going to be as good as she's hyped up to be. Since Mana Absorb 4 is the biggest change in this Fatecore, let's save the best for last and work our way up from the bottom. So, Fan Meeting. Sounds really good on paper and is probably going to be decent in practice. What it does is quite strong, the problem is how situational it is with all the requirements. It needs to be somebody who has attacked Jinai and only procs when Jinai targets the anti-fan with 30% or less every 7 turns. We think it's important to understand that this is not going to be a consistent damage passive, but rather more of an execution passive, similar to Fear of the Abyss, but with an active component. At 30%, assuming Jinai has 4 teammates alive, we can't really see anyone surviving a Fan Meeting proc. Superstar is more straightforward, anyone Jinai hits with abilities takes double dot damage for the next 7 turns. This obviously has great potential with the Dorka Kylot combo, and you can throw in FC Tanselo and Valentina in there as well if you're feeling particularly cheesy. This is a bit of a sink or swim situation. Is Superstar impactful enough to force an AoE meta and dominate, or will people not bother and then Superstar has a negligible impact when only paired with Jinai's AoE? Regardless of the relevance in PvP, Superstar will have an impact in PvE, considering the higher HP pools on enemies and more flexibility with comps, allowing for full dot teams like we mentioned earlier. So finally to the part we've all been waiting for, Mana Absorb 4. Now Hao and I have gone back and forth over how exactly this works, and we've come up with 2 scenarios. Scenario 1, the buffs and debuffs are tied to Mana Absorb and need the buff removal part of the passive to proc in order to get the secondary effects. Scenario 2, the buffs and debuffs are not tied to Mana Absorb and they are effective immediately. We think Scenario 1 is more likely. Let us know in the comments which one you think it is, or if you have another idea of how it works, we'd love to hear it. In Scenario 1, we think Jinai has potential to shake up the meta, and here's why. Currently, the most prevalent hero in PvP is FC Iris, and this is largely due to Wet Fog, but she also grants her team the Summer's Blessing passive, which grants an attack buff when procced. In an extreme example, we could see Wyler, who's relatively quick and has 0 mana Frost AoE, attack a Summer's Blessing team to proc it on everyone, and then have Jinai remove the buff and set the attack debuff, which significantly weakens the enemy that round. In addition to being somewhat of a counter to Summer's Blessing, Mana Absorb also causes problems for other heroes such as FC Rudley, Rachel, and the entire Awakening FC line. It could potentially also work against nation buffs from Signature Force and Blue Frame Fatecores. According to some of the testing we've done, Mana Absorb does not work on buffs given by marks, like Garf's Command HP buff for instance. By that logic, it also would not work on Annie's Burning Soul or Rira's Guardian Star, considering those are marks as well, but it could work on FC Bathory's HP buff. In Scenario 2, the buffs and debuffs are on from the very start of the fight, and the Mana Absorb proc is just for the bonus. In that case, FC Jinai is going to become the prime enabler of a new burst meta. Especially in higher tier PvP, where teams have Awakening and Signature Force, speed is king. And if the 20 speed Jinai provides is enough to let you move first, then it could be what you need to swing the match. In either situation, the key is going to be getting those buffs and debuffs as soon as possible. FC Jinai's other passives are nice, but more like backup dancers for the main star. That does it for us this video. If you found this helpful, please drop a like and subscribe. Let us know if you'll be pitying for FC Jinai or not in the comments, because we might be. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys next time. Peace.